three things that influence how a man feels about you. And boy, if we can help influence that, that's something we need to know about. Thank you so much for joining us again on Second Act TV. Once again, I'm so happy to welcome back Bob Grant, the founder of Relationship Headquarters and best-selling author of Women Men Adore. Bob, thanks so much for being here again.
Thanks for having me, Silke. It's nice to be here.
Well, you recently also started your own podcast, the Relationship Headquarters podcast. And I listened to a few of them. It's great, by the way. We'll link to it. But the one that caught my ear and that I want to talk with you about today, three things that influence how a man feels about you. Well, this goes along perfectly, of course, with your mission in life, which is to help women understand how men feel. And boy, if we can help influence that, that's something we need to know about.
Yeah, these are three things I think that women usually do. Sometimes they don't realize the impact they have. So I thought it'd be nice, since we talked about this, to kind of go over from a man's perspective and maybe why they have such an influence, so that you can understand his thinking as opposed to us just telling you what to do.
Yeah, no, it's great because, and I love digging deep like that, and really, women, we wonder about this all the time. And these three things here, we don't think about it. So, number one, let's start with number one. How you see yourself has a big influence on how a man sees you. What do you mean by that?
So when I talk with women, one-on-one, once I get to know them, now I'm generalizing, but one of the surprises to me was how harsh women tend to be with themselves.
Mm.
I'm sure that varies woman by woman, but a lot of them are really hard about all kinds of things, from weight or not being positive or something. And they play that over and over again in their heads. And it's not that men can read thoughts or read minds, but what we can tell is how that affects a woman. If I'm really harsh on myself, it's going to affect body language. It's going to affect how open I am or not open. It's going to affect the way I see myself. And men can pick up on that vibration, for lack of a better word. And we don't always know what it is. Sometimes men will misinterpret that. She doesn't like me, or she thinks poorly of me, when it may be something that's going on with her.
That is such a great point because, well, 2 points actually. One, yeah, absolutely. We are harsh on ourselves, even when we try not to be. Like there's something always going on in our heads, and yeah, men, we are harder on ourselves than men. And then the other one is that we tend like when anybody does anything, we tend to think it's about us.
Because we feed off, men do, the emotions of a woman and how she thinks about herself. And we don't mean that, she has to be positive all the time and never have a doubt. Really, it's about the awareness of it and how much of an impact she has. Something I didn't realize, and I've had a few clients that have taught me this, I didn't realize as a man that women are always thinking about something. And most men are like, don't understand that. And when I tell women that, men a lot of times aren't thinking about anything, usually they'll say, how do you do that? What, like it's a button to push? And I'm like, well, we just do it. I mean, we're wired differently chemically. I said, so it's foreign to us that it's like always going on and why you always want to know stuff. And I don't know that that has to change, or that's a good thing to change as far as men are men and women are women in that aspect. But if a woman knows the influence she has, that's why pretending and burying and stuffing things, he's going to pick up on that one way or the other. And that has a big influence with him because he's likely to misinterpret why. That's why he doesn't pick up on your cues or your hints, stuff that other girlfriends would. But he's oblivious to it. He just knows something's wrong and doesn't know what. So he may try to fix random things or do what we meant him to do. It'll be fine. You're good.
Mm-hmm.
Because that's what I'd say to another man, as a way of, you got this. You're strong.
Yeah.
You're confident. Works awful with women, I'm assuming.
Yeah. Yeah. That again, such a great point that I personally haven't thought about it in a long time is that men actually can sit there and not think to where we're constantly thinking. It's almost a sickness. Really, if you find yourself doing that, or if you find yourself, well, negative talk, that you're doing a lot of negative talk, yeah, you send that out in whatever vibe you put out there, and it can absolutely influence how a man thinks about you.
Yeah, so one of the things I tell women with that is that, if something's going on, it's bothering you, let's say it to him. And the problem is that's vulnerable. It is vulnerable. But that vulnerability shows him that, okay, if she's upset, I don't have to worry about her holding on to it and exploding later on or letting it build up. If she's upset, she'll tell me. She'll bring it up. She'll ask. Therefore, I can trust her that if she's having an off day or whatever, I don't have to walk on eggshells or
Mhm.
just ignore her and tune her out. I train him to be all, you're willing to be authentic. And that authenticness with him is what makes you emotionally safe.
Again, it makes so much sense, and I'm thinking of how, how do you actually implement that, and what would you bring up and not, because you certainly wouldn't bring up, oh God, I'm feeling a little fat today, or oh God, my hair looks like crap, or, I mean, how do you get that out of your head and make sure that you don't throw that out?
No, see, in fairness, even that's a good example, I think, because it's something that we don't just want to share right away. But if I'm overwhelmed, let's just pretend I'm a woman, about
Mhm.
maybe I'm worried about my weight or my hair looks awful or just my mom's sick or not something life or death, but I can simply share that I'm feeling a little overwhelmed. I'm feeling I've got a few things on my mind, and as what I'm told, as a woman, I know it'll be okay over time, but he doesn't know that. And what we're doing is letting him understand there are things that need his immediate attention, and there are things that he'll get worked out, or maybe it'd be nice to be listened to. Sometimes it's just, I'm just feeling lonely, and it'd be nice just to connect a little bit. It does require, or the suggestion is sometimes just to take a few moments and just, what is it that I need? If I'm talking to a client and they're real confused, I say, what do you need right now? And they don't usually know, but if we slow down, is this something to talk with girlfriends? You're right, like the
Mhm.
weight thing, or is it something just it'll be fine in a few hours, in yourself, or is it a concern that you really want to address with him? Slowing down usually helps you determine what do I need with this, whether to share or not share, but at least I can give him a clue and a cue is that something's going on with me that I'm not mad at him for something that he's not aware of.
Well, bottom line, just I guess for us to remember that how we see ourselves has a huge influence. Well, not just on another guy, really, on how you show yourself to the world. So it's a great point to remember. Well, number two, then, three things that influence how a man feels about you. How a man sees you in general. What does that mean?
A lot of this I get from when I would see talk with women one on one and the details they would go into and things, perceptions they would have of what the man noticed or what he probably thought of her on a date. And I wouldn't laugh, because they're nervous, but I thought there's no way he noticed these things. And they don't realize just how men see things. Not everything is binary, but if I can get women to view that men make binary decisions, yes, no, this works, this doesn't work. When a man's seeing a woman, the biggest impact for him is how she makes him feel, which doesn't always mean stir it up and make it really intense, is that he's predisposed, that he likes her, he's interested, he's curious. Men are not nearly as harsh with women as women are with other women
Mhm.
or with themselves. And so when I hear them talking about, oh, my weight's this or whatever's that, I'm like, I'm sure you probably could lose weight or whatever the thing was. I said, but you don't understand how much just as a woman you're appealing.
Well, it's interesting how you emphasize that it's not what men what think, but how you make them feel or what they feel in general.
Yes, we think about women in general, and men are just predisposed to actually find women interesting. I mean, I know the complaints and the what I would do this with clients sometimes, and I would say, let's pretend your dad's a king. And this ancient times, and his job to me is you have to find my daughter a husband. I said, well, I've got to please him and I've got to please you. I said, I will have one goal in mind. I said, that's to get you or get men within 3 feet of you. Just, I said, that's it. These within 3 feet, you have an advantage. And they would say, what do I do? You don't have to do anything. What I mean is they think they have to do something to be entertaining and all. I said, no, you don't. I said, within 3 feet, I said, he's going to feel and notice you. And to really emphasize it, I'll say, let me prove this. Take your girlfriend or some friend, and you're within 3 feet of her husband. How upset do you think she'll be? And most of them, oh, she'd
Mhm.
be real upset. That's right. I said, because wives know, why are you so close to my man? They know what
Mhm.
happens when a man gets close with a woman. And see, it's not her doing anything. That's just her natural ability as a woman that she's wired to be pleasing to men. And the ones I find do really well have this understanding Not that I'm perfect or not that every man likes me, but just that I'm more than enough just for who I am. And that makes dating totally different when you have that mindset versus I have to perform or audition.
So that's the part we have under our control then again, is how we think about ourselves, that I am enough. Is that what you're saying?
I'm going to make it worse. You are a man's you are a man's kryptonite. And see, when you see a man's daughter who can get away with anything, I mean, some of it he probably shouldn't spoil her, but it's because that's his daughter. And you see his wife or his girlfriend, once there's an emotional connection, he'll do almost anything to keep that. And he'll, because he's dependent upon it. And I can't get that other places. I can't go to Walmart and get it. I can't get that playing golf with my buddies. There's just nothing else like it. And so her smile, the way she looks at me, it just does something to me as a man. And I'm not thinking in terms of all these attributes about her. I mean, I like them, but that's not what it does, is I get to feel something from her. In other words, I can't get this without her. And she has that just by being a woman. I want women to realize the advantage they have with men they don't realize.
That's that. Well, so I hope everybody heard that out there, and I look forward to the comments on this, because I've never quite heard it put that way, that we just have an advantage. We certainly don't. I don't think we think about that. I've never thought about that. Oh, I just have an advantage. That's a good thing to know, especially if you're feeling insecure.
When I came up with the Woman Men Adore program, one of the main things with that wasn't to change women. It was to remind them of that ability. And the ones that go through it, one of the fun parts is it makes them more of who they are. We're not changing someone as much as, so if you're a little quirky, let's be quirky. Oh, sure, don't overdo it. Or if you're chatty, you're just chatty. Those things aren't that big a deal. It's when I try to pretend to be something I'm not, or I suppress parts of my personality thinking he'll like me more. I'm like, that doesn't work well. Authenticity is what we're after. And when a woman embraces that, that's usually what she does with men she's not interested in. That's why they like her so much. It's because she doesn't care. Not in an ugly way. She's just not guarded. She's who
Mhm.
she is. She's not as concerned with what other people think because she knows she's enough.
That's supposed to be one of the big new dating trends I just read yesterday, the 2025 dating trends, just that authentic and not caring and being in the moment without looking to the future. So your points just are just, spot on. Number three here, this is a good one to remind ourselves too, is how you act when you're upset. That I mean, it's so logical. Yeah, how you act when you're upset obviously would influence how someone feels, but what specifically do you mean by that?
Every man, every woman has a horror story of when someone was lost their temper
Mm-hmm.
or sulked for days or weeks or punished us. And then there becomes a fear of, oh my gosh, I don't want the person I care about to be upset with me.
Mm-hmm.
Because if they're upset, I'm afraid they'll do that. We want to reverse that.
Yeah.
And when you're upset about something, I want you to share that because I want him to see that when you're upset, that he knows it clearly, but that you don't spiral out of control like people in his past. And I
Mm-hmm.
want it to be where he starts to associate that you can be angry and upset with him and you still love him. You can be
Mm-hmm.
angry and upset with him and you're not going to punish him indefinitely. I mean, depending on what we're talking about, but just in general, because that's how I've seen with men when all of a sudden she's upset. And there's one particular in my office and she was upset about something and he did something. He thought she was just going to leave. And she
Mm-hmm.
pointed it out to him. And he says, well, I guess you're going to leave. And she was like, why would I leave? She looked at him like he was stupid. He said, well, obviously he did something he shouldn't have done. She says, yeah, I don't like it. Believe me, I'll tell you. And he had never experienced that before. Her being really upset, and we're still good as a couple. And
Mm-hmm.
that's one of the healing things for men is to see that because remember, emotional safety for men is as important to us as physical safety is for women.
That's something that you really can't demonstrate though right offhand. That's something that goes as the relationship yeah, continues on.
Yeah, I know
Very.
people try to do that at times with, what do you like when you're angry? Well, I'm just telling
Mm-hmm.
you what I think. My perception of myself, it may or may not, but that's what I think of myself. Versus it does take time for that one. And that's why I like folks to take dating slower in the beginning, just to wait for
Mm-hmm.
those things to come up, because then you get to see the whole person.
Yeah. So it's not really about even how you act necessarily, unless you just go really go berserko, but the fact that you can get past it, that being upset or being angry does not mean that it's over.
That's one of the ways that makes a man want to bond, get closer with you, is because, oh, I can trust her. Even when I do something dumb or do something or
Hmm.
say the wrong thing, she's not going to punish me, punish,
Hmm.
like I've done in the past. And there's another point with this that you mentioned is for men, we need to see that I need to see if I'm upset, if you're upset with me because I was a pill or I was rude, that you can handle me. Because
Mm,
if you can't
okay.
handle me when I'm upset, I cannot trust you when I'm scared because that shows me you're fragile. At times, I need to be put in place respectfully, please, but I don't always say the right things. That helps us to trust you that, oh, okay, if I'm scared, she's not going to fall apart.
Again, it's so it's more of a trigger, really. These are like trigger issues that can be settled by demonstrating that you can get through it. I mean, that's something that I over the last few years learned about myself, is that any kind of conflict I immediately associated with some sort of finality, that this is, that's it, we're done. But then that's just part of the relationship, which is, and I'll ask you, when people say, oh, they never fight, or there's a perfect couple that never argue, that's actually really a bad thing.
Yeah, not fighting. I mean, we're generalizing.
Mm-hmm.
It means someone hasn't let someone get that close because it's two personalities, two different perspectives on things at times. And can we talk through this? And that's how we become a team.
Mm-hmm.
Is that your part, my part, and we do this together.
Well, a great conversation. So again, three things that influence how a man feels about you. A lot of stuff to think about here. I'm really looking forward to the comments. See what you think about this. Does this make sense? Does this relate? Bob, as always, I so appreciate your time. I will link to all of your information. I think I said at the top of the show, you just started your own podcast, Relationship Headquarters Podcast. We'll link to that. Get more wonderful advice from Bob about what men think. and if you would like to work with Bob directly, we have a link below in the show notes for a discovery call. If you need some extra help in with any of the stuff out there in the dating world, do give Bob a call. He's a great coach. So thank you again, Bob, and I look forward to our next discussion on Second Act TV.